Hey everybody, Kerry Waldy here, my hotel room in Pontiac, and we're down here teaching a series of seminars on wealth creation in our urban communities. It's common knowledge that there's a disparity between generational wealth passed down from one generation to another and uh, personal prosperity within our urban communities. And so we're down here to teach these fantastic leaders that are confronted with need every day in Detroit and in Pontiac, and they go right into the heart of the city helping people. And we wanted to train them so that they could understand these principles of wealth creation, because we've learned this: one, that there are cultural conditions that will lend itself to human flourishing and cultural conditions that will inhibit human flourishing. And so the cultural conditions, sociologists have told us for years, if we just create these conditions, humans will flourish and prosper because we're made in the image of God. We have will, we have creativity, we have the power to make things better. These include a stable government free of corruption, the right to private property and the free exchange of goods, a just justice system, strong family structures. If we create a culture that embodies those traits, then you're going to see human flourishing. But even more important than that, and I may do a whole series or a whole video just on these conditions in the culture, because it is election season and we have so many people promising what they're going to do for us as governmental officials. And it's easy for us to think that somehow it's their fault if I'm not prospering. If I don't have a job, you hear them promising, well, we're gonna create jobs for you. Well, government really doesn't create jobs. That's the role of entrepreneurial leaders. And it's my job with a will and with talent to do the best thing that I can do to see that I can prosper. Now, I understand this, that we're all dealt a different hand, that we don't all have equality of intellect, we don't have equality even of opportunity. But in our world, there are personal conditions that we have seen repeated over and over and over again, that when someone adopts these personal conditions, they're going to prosper. They will do well. And this is important because there's so much need around us. We know this, that compassion without capacity is just sympathy. If you don't have capacity, you're just feeling sorry for the situation. And I don't know about you, but I'm gagging on so many people crying about how the world is and how it should be better, but they're not actually doing anything about it. It's easy to point a finger and it's easy to complain and say, well, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. That's right. I feel like these screens have turned the whole nation into spectators. And once you're a spectator, you're just a short walk away from being a cynical critic and pointing out everything that's wrong, but never doing anything about it. We're down here doing something about it. And these leaders here in the inner cities, they're doing something about it every day. Their lives are mired in the grind of everyday life, trying to help people. They recognize there's a need. They don't need one more person pointing out, yeah, look, there's wealth disparity. Yeah, no kidding. Let's do something about it. And so we're down here teaching the wealth creation principles so that they can have a greater understanding and then build on that understanding for a greater future. So let's talk about this. I want increased capacity so that I can help people who are in need. And if I want that increased capacity, the first place I need to look, and as a flight instructor, I have to drill this into my students over and over and over again. And that is, you have to fly your plane. You can't fly everybody else's plane. Yes, there's an environment where there's other planes that you have to look out for. There are cultural conditions and meteorological conditions that you have to look out for. But at the end of the day, you have to fly your plane. The other day I was talking with a pilot who was flying a $9 million jet. And it was a fantastic conversation. He was sharing about pilot salaries and the beautiful airplane. It was just gorgeous for a personal jet. And the family that rented it basically flew from Chicago to my town in 40 minutes. And it was just a different world that I live in. But at the end of the day, I had to go to my plane and I had to fly my plane. It wasn't a $9 million jet, but it got us off the ground and back safely. So it's easy to look at the world around us and point out disparities, but what can I do with what I'm given? And so there are personal conditions that we need to look at that are so important, that are within my purview of change. I can't change the entire culture, but what can I do personally every day? The first one is that I need to live led of God in my life. I need God's leading in my life. You see, sociologists will talk about where is your locus of control. Do you have an external locus of control? Someone with an external locus of control, meaning where they locate the control over their life. If I locate it outside of myself, that means, in my mind, I think, my circumstances dictate the outcome of my life. My circumstances dictate my destiny. And we're seeing this generation move more and more toward an external locus of control, where it's these things that are happening. It's the nature of my birth or my ethnicity or the neighborhood I grew up in, the school that I'm forced to go to, my family structure. It's all these things that are outside of our control that dictate our destiny. Now, they certainly affect our lives, but we still have our God-given talent and our will that can help us progress in our lives. They don't have to dictate our destiny. Then there are those who have an external locus or an internal locus of control. They say, no, my choices affect me, and the primary driver of my destiny is my internal will, what I'm going to do, regardless of the external circumstances. And those with an internal locus of control can think that they're self-made and often can be compassionless and not see a need even for God in their lives. But if you understand that you were created for a relationship with God, that you're not on the planet because you wanted to be here. You didn't control you arriving in America here or in this world. You didn't control. You didn't say, well, I know one day I'd like to exist. And then boom, by virtue of your will, you exist. No, God wanted you here. He created you for a purpose, and that is to know Him and then to steward this world as an image bearer. You bear the image of God. If you recognize and you marry your will with the will of your Creator, some powerful things happen. First, you have what's called hope. Only in Jesus can the past regrets and your present moments and your future all be bound up in hope. You see, my past regrets and decisions that I've made back there that I wish I could have back, Jesus brings grace and forgiveness to those situations. My past can be forgiven in Him. He went to the cross for my sins. My present is made meaningful because everything I do, even if it's mundane things that no one notices, if it's done unto the Lord, He notices, and it's made eternally significant because I'm doing it as unto Him. And then my future is secure. You see, the resurrection of Christ gives us hope beyond the grave. My past, my present, and my future. When I yield my life to God, my Creator, through Christ, then I have hope, and I marry my will with the will of God. So I know this: if I'm following His leading in my life, I'm going to be successful. I'm going to be successful. I might not have the $9 million jet, or I might have it. It doesn't really matter. The question is, am I doing what God has called me to do and be? Maybe God has called you to do something that takes you out of the spotlight, that somehow takes you off the Instagram life. Is God applauding? Is God leading you to do that? You see, it's God who's handing out the grades. It would be a drag to get to the end of your life, and even if you had an internal locus of control, you could say, I did it my way. But at the end of the day, when you met your Maker, you found out that you were running the wrong race, that you were building your little kingdom instead of God's kingdom. So when we have this locus of control located in the will of God, no matter what He asks us to do, He hands out the grades. And at the end of the day, we want Him to say, well done. We're going to do more on these personal conditions for personal prosperity and cultural prosperity, because as people prosper, the culture prospers in a little bit. So anyway, Godspeed. I love you guys. I've got tonight, we're going to introduce the investment classes to the class. We talked about education last night, but we're going to introduce the financial markets, a little bit of real estate, and business ownership. And so I look forward to talking with them about this. And if you want to explore on this YouTube channel, there's real estate and business ownership videos and webinars that we've done here. So I'll sign off for now. Godspeed.